Burna Boy just announced a free concert in Burkina Faso, and he's giving every dollar to the government. Why would one of Africa's richest artists give up $1 million payday for a coup leader? Let's find out. A global superstar giving away a concert isn't just rare, it's unheard of. Burna Boy, one of the most commercially successful artists on the continent, is deliberately walking away from over $1 million. Not because he's bored, not because he's trying to boost his career, but because he's backing something bigger than fame, an idea. This concert is not a tour stop, it's a statement. Burna Boy is using his platform to uplift a country that most of the world still ignores or misunderstands. Burkina Faso, a landlocked West African nation that's been battling insurgent violence, foreign interference, and economic hardship for years. But despite its struggles, Burkina Faso is also the birthplace of a powerful new ideology sweeping across Africa: self-reliance without the West. Burna's decision didn't come from a management deal or music label stunt. It was personal. In recent months, the singer has grown more vocal about Pan-Africanism, even referencing Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's revolutionary icon, in interviews and lyrics. Sankara once said, "He who feeds you, controls you." That quote might as well be the theme of this concert. Sources close to Burna Boy suggest he was moved by Burkina Faso's recent transformation under Captain Ibrahim Traore, a leader who defied global powers and made sovereignty more than just a slogan. Burna saw something familiar in Traoré: youth, defiance, and the refusal to bow down. And this isn't some passive show of support. Burna Boy has gone all in. He's covering all performance costs, bringing his team to Ouagadougou, and personally overseeing how the money from international channels, sponsorships, merchandise, foreign ticketing, is redirected into local development. We're talking about real impact: classroom construction, solar grids in villages, maybe even mobile health units. Not charity, not pity, empowerment. But what's the catch? There isn't one. That's what makes this even more fascinating. There's no Western NGO involved, no international charity brand on stage, no profit sharing. Burna Boy is not using Burkina Faso as a brand boost. He's treating it like a partner, a revolutionary partner. And fans aren't just getting a concert, they're getting a political message, one wrapped in rhythm and lyrics. Expect tributes to leaders like Sankara and Lumumba. Expect visuals that celebrate African resistance and unity. Expect chants, tears, and electricity in the air. Still, it raises a bigger question. Why would Burna Boy align himself with someone as controversial as Captain Ibrahim Traore, a military figure the Western press often labels a coup leader or autocrat? Why would a pop icon risk his image on a man the international elite are trying to discredit? What exactly is it about Captain Traoré that's drawing so much loyalty from youth, from Pan-Africanists, and now from Africa's biggest artist? At first glance, it sounds like a publicity stunt, a free concert in a struggling country, backed by a superstar with a flashy name. What could that possibly change? But that's where this story breaks the mold. Burna Boy's concert in Burkina Faso isn't just about music. It's been engineered as a financial vehicle, a bold experiment in Pan-African fundraising without begging bowls. Instead of calling for international donors, the event creates a circular system. Africans and allies around the world pay to experience the revolution, and the revenue stays in Africa to fuel that revolution. Here's how it works. Local attendees don't pay a cent. This concert is a gift to the people of Burkina Faso. But international fans, many of whom would travel across continents to see Burna Boy perform, will pay premium ticket prices for the rare experience of witnessing a historic performance in a country making historic moves. Global sponsors, some Pan-African companies, some Western brands eager for visibility, pay top dollar for brand placement and partnership rights. Even merchandise, featuring Burna's Afrofusion art and Burkina Faso's revolutionary emblems, will be sold worldwide. But the most important part: here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Burna Boy isn't taking a single coin. Every cent of the profit is being redirected toward national development projects, real, trackable ones. Early leaks from organizers suggest the money is already earmarked for building rural schools, solar energy hubs, and small health clinics in areas long neglected by past governments. It's a new formula. Not aid, not loans, not foreign capital with strings attached. It's cultural revenue turned into national infrastructure. And for a country like Burkina Faso, where access to clean electricity and basic education is still limited in many regions, that money can go a long way. Traoré's government has reportedly agreed to create a public, transparent fund to ensure the money is used efficiently. This is not about creating another celebrity charity foundation. It's about shifting the development model entirely, from foreign dependence to African ownership, powered by African excellence. And the numbers add up. Just one Burna Boy concert in Europe can gross $1 to $2 million. With international demand and media hype, this Burkina Faso performance could double or triple that, especially with digital streams, VIP packages, and fan merchandise drops timed around the event. But it's not just about cash. It's about shifting psychology. Africans donating to Africans. African art is paying for African progress. It's the symbolism that makes this different and dangerous to those who profit from Africa's poverty narratives. Still, for a concert to become this impactful, it must carry more than money. It has to inspire, provoke, and unite. And Burna Boy knows this. He's turning the stage into more than a platform. He's turning it into a weapon of culture, pride, and protest. So the next question is, how exactly will Burna Boy use this moment, his stage, his music, his message, to spark something bigger? It's one thing to raise money. It's another thing to raise consciousness. What makes Burna Boy's concert in Burkina Faso revolutionary isn't just the money flowing into development, it's the message flowing into minds. Because in Africa, music has never been just sound. It's always been resistant to rhythm. Long before press conferences and campaign speeches, it was the griots who told the truth, the poets who warned kings, the drummers who stirred spirits before battle. And now, in this modern age, Burna Boy is stepping into that lineage, not just as a performer, but as a political artist standing on a battlefield of ideas. And make no mistake, this concert will be political, not partisan, not angry, but intentional. His lyrics, stage visuals, set list, and even guest performers are expected to echo a single theme. Africa doesn't need saving, it needs remembering. Remembering its power, its roots, and its right to decide its future. Burna Boy has already laid the foundation for this message in his music. Songs like Monsters You Made call out colonial trauma. Another story exposes Nigeria's manipulation by the British. He's always known how to lace entertainment with education. But now, the classroom is bigger. The stakes are higher. This isn't just for Spotify. This is for history. The stage in Ouagadougou will likely feature tributes to icons like Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, and Amilcar Cabral. Not just as nostalgic names, but as unfinished conversations. He may perform barefoot, like Fela Kuti. He may project quotes of African revolutionaries on giant LED walls. He might stop mid-song to speak truths. Because this time, the audience isn't just the crowd in front of him. It's the whole continent watching through live streams, headlines, and social media. And in a region saturated with foreign music, Western culture, and imported values, this concert becomes a reclaiming of African narrative power, a soundproof rebellion. For the youth of Burkina Faso, many of whom feel abandoned by global systems, this concert isn't just entertainment, it's validation. It says, you are not forgotten. It says, the world will now watch you. And perhaps most powerfully, it shows that culture is no longer passive. It's active, it funds, it builds, it is liberating. Burna Boy is flipping the traditional role of an artist, from someone who reflects society to someone who reshapes it. And he's doing it on African soil, under African leadership, for African futures. But what happens next? A concert ends, the speakers turn off, the stage is packed away, the world moves on. Or does it? If this is more than a moment, if it's the spark of a Pan-African shift, then the question is no longer what Burna Boy is doing, it's what Africa does with it. When Burna Boy walks off that stage in Ouagadougou, the lights will dim, the music will stop, and the crowd will disperse. But if everything goes according to plan, the real show will just be starting. In the form of schools being built, solar panels being installed, and a continent finally rethinking what power looks like. Because this concert isn't just about Burkina Faso, it's about what's possible when Africa stops waiting for permission. For decades, the development model in Africa has followed a predictable script. Crisis erupts, Western aid arrives, loans follow, and conditions are attached. But this event turns the script inside out. No IMF, no World Bank, no external control. Just an artist, a government, and a people deciding to do it themselves. That might seem small, just one concert. But revolutions rarely start with armies. They start with symbols. And Burna Boy's concert is exactly that. A symbol that Africa's cultural capital can be converted into real capital. That stardom doesn't have to be hollow. And that entertainment can be tied to empowerment. And more importantly, it signals something deeper. A trust between leaders and artists, between governments and citizens. Captain Traoré didn't have to invite Burna Boy. Burna Boy didn't have to come. But they saw something in each other. A shared belief that Africa doesn't need to imitate the West to become strong. It needs to believe in itself. This trust, if it holds, could create a new kind of alliance across Africa. Not based on borders or trade blocs, but on shared values and vision. Imagine if more artists followed this model. Imagine if local businesses backed development instead of foreign contracts. Imagine if governments opened their doors to the creativity and energy of the youth instead of stifling it. Imagine if culture became the currency of change. This concert may become a test case. Other African nations are watching. Ghana, Mali, Zimbabwe, even South Africa. Because if it works, if the people see results, if the money truly builds what it promises, then it sets a precedent. Pan-African development can be crowd-powered, star-fueled, and locally led. And this is exactly why it matters that it's happening in Burkina Faso. Not in a rich oil state, not in a major tourist hub, but in a country that was once seen as poor, unstable, and irrelevant. A country that, under Captain Traoré, is refusing to stay in that box. A country that, thanks to this concert, might now be seen as the birthplace of a new African model. Burna Boy might not be a politician. He might never run for office or hold a cabinet position. But with this act, he's doing something just as important, redefining what leadership looks like in Africa. And by investing in Burkina Faso, he's sending a message to every African youth. You don't need to wait for help. You are the help. So, could this be the beginning of a new African era? Maybe not yet, but it might just be the first beat of the soundtrack. On the surface, Burna Boy's Burkina Faso concert looks like a beautiful act of philanthropy. A global star giving back to the continent, a poor nation receiving support. No weapons, no threats, no speeches at the UN. And yet, Western governments, think tanks, and aid organizations are quietly watching this concert with unease. Why? Because beneath the rhythms and cheers, there's something deeper happening. Africa is rewriting the rules, and it's not asking permission. To outsiders, this concert might seem like a simple cultural event. But for those who understand the patterns of power, Burna Boy's decision marks the crack in a long-standing control system. For decades, Africa's economic and political development was tightly monitored and funded through Western institutions, IMF loans, USAID programs, and EU partnerships. Money flowed in, but it always came with conditions. Do this, don't do that. Privatize this, sell off that, accept our advisors, keep the door open. But this concert bypasses all of that. No Western donor, no bank official, no international oversight committee. Instead, it's a Nigerian artist and a Burkina Faso government raising money directly from people and businesses, funding their projects, and taking pride in doing so. This is what makes the West nervous. Africa is realizing it doesn't need the middleman anymore. And it's not just about money. It's about narrative control. The West has always dominated the storytelling around Africa. Africa as poor, desperate, unstable, in need of rescue. These stories justify foreign help, which conveniently comes with contracts, access to resources, and long-term leverage. But now here comes Burna Boy, one of the most globally recognized African voices, using his platform to show a different Africa. One where the youth are proud, where artists invest in governments, where sovereignty isn't just a flag, it's a budget, a solar panel, a school. And even more threatening, people are listening. Young Africans across the continent are watching and wondering, If Burkina Faso can do this, why can't we? If Burna Boy can give up $1 million to back sovereignty, why can't our elites? To the Western establishment, that question is dangerous, because it calls into question a global arrangement where Africa is always the dependent, never the architect. Already, some Western media have started subtle framing shifts, calling Traoré a populist, warning about the risks of unvetted celebrity-led development, and asking whether concerts should influence politics. But these aren't journalistic concerns. They're signals of discomfort, signs that control is slipping. Because if this works, if the concert funds real development, if the people feel empowered, if Traoré's approval surges, then the entire Western model of African engagement begins to look obsolete. This is not just about one night of music in Burkina Faso. It's about who gets to decide Africa's future and who no longer does. So now the world is watching, but not with applause, with fear. There is one more thing scaring the West. Just a few years ago, Burkina Faso wasn't even part of the conversation when it came to cultural influence. Lagos had the music, Dakar had fashion, Nairobi had the tech, Johannesburg had the film studios, and Ouagadougou, it had poverty, coups, and headlines no one read. But today, the world's attention is shifting. And it's not because of war or disaster, it's because of Burna Boy. And more importantly, because of what Burkina Faso now represents, a new kind of African leadership, a bold new vision of sovereignty, and, perhaps soon, a cultural revolution capital. This concert is just the beginning. Already, other African artists are expressing interest in collaborating. Local musicians in Burkina Faso are reporting a surge in streams. Fashion designers are preparing to showcase traditional Mossi fabrics at the event. Filmmakers and documentary crews are flying in to capture it all. Suddenly, Ouagadougou is no longer silent, it's electric. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. For decades, Burkina Faso has hosted FESPACO, Africa's largest film festival, but it always felt like a niche event. Prestigious, yes, but overshadowed by flashier capitals. Now, however, with the rise of Captain Traoré and the cultural weight of Burna Boy's concert, Burkina Faso is turning into a symbol, a brand, a location that stands for something. In a continent often criticized for lacking unity, Burkina Faso is becoming the meeting point of art and resistance, of music and meaning, of culture and nation building. And people are noticing. Pan-African thinkers are already proposing cultural summits in Ouagadougou, revolution-themed art exhibits, Afro-conscious music residencies, even startup incubators focused on indigenous design and anti-colonial tech. In other words, this isn't just about one concert, it's about building a movement hub, a city that channels both spirit and strategy. Of course, there will be challenges. Burkina Faso still faces security threats. Infrastructure is fragile. But the symbolism is already in motion, and symbols can reshape maps. Remember Havana in the 1960s? One revolutionary moment turned a small island into a global center of socialist art, music, and literature. Why couldn't Ouagadougou become the Havana of Africa? And unlike other cultural centers that rely heavily on foreign funding or soft diplomacy, Burkina Faso's rise is organic. It's not curated for tourists or shaped by colonial leftovers. It's raw, defiant, and homegrown. That authenticity is what's attracting the continent's creatives. And that momentum, if harnessed, could make Burkina Faso not just a political example, but a cultural compass. So the question isn't whether Burkina Faso is ready. It's whether the rest of Africa is ready to follow it. Do you think more artists will do the same? Is change finally happening? Let us know in the comment section when the West will accept that they have lost Africa. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.